Hi, and welcome to another show, Florida's Great Northwest. I'm your host, Larry Sassano. And my special guest today is Ralph Long, who is the area manager for the St Regis Paper Company and Holland Ware Charitable Foundation. Well, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on our show today and talk about all your holdings that your company has, particularly Northwest Florida here. But I'd like you to just hold on one second and let me just mention something, as I like to do at the beginning of the show, about Florida's Great Northwest mission. You know, we are a 16-county regional economic development organization supported by the economic developers across this region, from Jefferson County to the east to Escambia County to the west. And our main and primary function is to recruit targeted industries to the area. But in order to do that, we have to have properties, good properties that we can market. Well, when one afternoon, I guess, Ralph was watching TV and he saw our show. And he didn't know us, and he called me up and he said, Larry, he says, I saw your show and I was really impressed by what you were saying there. So I said, so we met, and Ralph came over to the office, talked about his holdings, brought us some maps, which you'll see today. And I said, well, why don't you be on the show also, and you could talk yourself about this property and your holdings. So that's what I've asked him to do, and so welcome again.
Glad to be here.
Tell us about the formation of Holland Ware himself, and how he acquired these large land holdings in the southeastern United States, and how it all came about.
Well, Holland started buying timberland when he was 15 years old. Wow. In fact, he just called me last week, and the first tract of land that he ever planted pine trees on, they're 62 years of age now. And he asked me the other day to put him in touch with some people that could handle that type of wood, because I had been cutting some large saw timber in another area. And I put him in touch with some people, and he's looking at harvesting that. But he started at 15 years of age, and he's been buying, investing in timberland all of his life. And our most recent purchase was the Shoal River Ranch.
Right, we're going to talk about that.
The Shoal River Ranch, and I had no idea how famous this ranch was until we purchased it. We have people showing up at the gates almost every week wanting to know who we are and what we're going to do with the property. Yeah. I'm not meaning to talk about anyone, talk bad about anyone, but it has been in a poor state of management, and that's our number one goal, is to get it into a good state of management again. The property, Mr. Ware is very concerned with taking care of property and what is being left to posterity, and we want to get it back into a good high state of management.
Well, of course, Nathan Sparks from the EDC and I are very familiar with Shoal River Ranch, and you know, we in time had listed it with a lot of our trade publications as a mega site. 11,000 acres is a lot of land, but it is a beautiful piece of property. And we always had hopes of bringing a mega project to that. We still do. Now, I think more so than ever, because of what you've told me and what you're telling this audience here, is I think that the location of it is, I mean, obviously you and Mr. Ware saw a lot of value in that property and potential for it. Right now, how is the property zoned?
The majority of the property is agricultural, but there's 1,000 acres that is zoned industrial. Okay. But our interest in the property is some 13 years ago, I came to this area to bid on an international paper package. They were selling 7 packages of land, and Holland and I make a pretty good team. I'm always talking him down on the price, and he's always talking me up. And I bid on 7 packages, but we only got 1 package in Escambia County, Alabama. But I fell in love with the area. My middle daughter and I had come and done some research in the area, and we fell in love with it. I brought my wife back. She fell in love with it. We've been trying to get back here.
Okay.
So when Shoal River Ranch came up on the radar screen that we could purchase it, it was immediately my top priority. I dropped everything I was doing, jumped in the truck, ran at night to get here, look it over, and we were very fortunate that we were the purchasers. There were several people pursuing it, and fortunately we bought it.
Well, I'm glad you did, and I'm glad Mr. Ware bought it. And now, 1,000 acres industrial, that means a lot to an economic developer. So Nathan and I are very anxious to try to market that and find a project that will be suitable for your company to do so. And we're looking forward to marketing that with you. And is there any interest from the county for any of that land?
Yes, I think you're aware that the Water and Sewer Department already owns land within the interior of our property, our holdings there, for a spray field, a future spray field if needed. And they're also interested in acquiring some property to build a lake for water for future industrial use.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk about the location. We have some maps that are going to be shown. Basically, 20 runs right through it, US 20.
I-10,
Interstate
10 runs through it. And CSX Railroad borders it on the north, and Eglin Air Force Base borders it on the south.
Okay. And 90 runs through it as well. US 90 runs through it.
That is correct.
So you've got, I think, where the center of Shoal River Ranch, that dirt road that goes through the property, if you go from there on 90 west, it's about 6 miles or so, and you hit I-10 and 90. So that's a nice entranceway. And then farther south on the property, there's an old interchange, right? That was a
correct.
cattle interchange.
We have a bridge over Interstate 10.
Wouldn't that be nice to have a real interchange there someday?
I think it would do well for this area, because the one thing that has surprised me comparing this from 13 years ago is the volume of traffic that is in Crestview.
Yeah.
I have been astounded at how much traffic, and I think it'd make, if DOT is listening, I think it would make a great interchange, and we're willing to work with them in any way.
I agree. Boy, you put an interchange, and you know, it's kind of right in the middle of the interchange at 85 and 285. So
that is correct.
It would make sense that an interchange could be opened up there with a little support from the state FDOT. But the fact is that it sits in a nice location geographically. Logistically, we'd like to help you market it for potential projects. Do you have a kind of a plan yet, Ralph, in terms of if Nathan or I bring you a lead and they're looking for 20 acres and they need it zoned industrial, would you carve out 20 acres for a company that was going to create 50 jobs or so?
Oh, definitely. Well, we're very big on jobs in the area. If we can bring in industry that will bring jobs to the area, this area will grow, because I'd love to see these high school seniors go off, get an education, and then come back to Crestview for their employment. And I talked with the agricultural director for the Cooperative Extension Service yesterday, and she is originally from Crestview, grew up here, went off to college, and she was one of the fortunate ones that could be employed here. Yeah. And she was so happy that she could come back home to be employed. And everyone that we have talked to has been very supportive and appreciative of the fact of what we're trying to do.
Well, I think through things like this, through the program with Cox, we'll spread that word out that you and Mr. Ware are interested in some of the parents and grandparents to get the kids to find good jobs here, and you've got the ability to do that with that piece of property there. So we again thank you for your intuitiveness to buy that land, and we're going to work with you closely to market it. Let's talk about some of the other properties you have too. You've got properties in Gadsden County, Liberty County.
Right, we have approximately 55,000 contiguous acres in Gadsden and Liberty counties.
Wow.
And we have several other tracts scattered throughout the Northwest Florida. And we're very committed to Northwest Florida. In fact, We have some property that's under an LOI right now. We're continuing to purchase property in Northwest Florida because we believe in the future of Northwest Florida. We originally sold some 20,000 acres over on the east side of the state to purchase these properties over here because we felt like the east side had reached its maximum potential, and number one, we want to continue growing timber. Well, that is our number one goal, is to grow timber. Yeah. And that's what Mr. Ware has tried to do with his charitable foundation, to set these lands up so it'll be in timber from now on. But we also want to see jobs come to this part of the state. It's a great part of the state. I think it's the best part of Florida myself, and I think companies would be well served to move here. I cannot, in fact, I was talking with a deputy sheriff last night. I plan to move to this area. I plan to move to Crestview and to Shoal River Ranch. And I was asking him about crime in the area. And he was originally from California. And he said it's a great area. He said there's crime everywhere. He said, but it's very minimal here.
It's true. Yeah. One of the features that always been a good marketing part of what we do in economic development is the fact that this area here has always had very low crime, and that's a quality of life aspect. That
it is a quality of life.
When I'm selling Northwest Florida to someone in New York or Chicago or some other place, and the company gets serious about looking at a location here, that's a factor, because they're going to move their families here. They want to make sure they have good schools, and they're in an area where crime is not going to be a factor, because, as you know, a lot of major cities have problems like that, and we feel that it's to our advantage to be able to market that more effectively as well.
Well, as old as I am, I have a 16-year-old girl that we are legal guardians of. We took her in. We told her we would adopt her, but we let it be her decision as to whether she wanted to retain her last name or not. And she'll be moving with us, and I like what I'm finding out about the schools and what I'm finding out about the crime rate in this area.
Yeah, the schools are excellent, and we that's another thing
that's what I'm learning.
Yeah, we promote the schools because they're the ratings as far as their capabilities are the top in the state of Florida. And I mean, think about it. We're in an area that's rural and urban combined, but yet we've got such a great educational system at all levels. You know, at the K through 12, at the post-secondary, and I mean it's easy to market this region. That's why we enjoy what we do. I think because we have the ability to market a region that is not difficult, and people are looking for those type factors when they're making their decisions.
That's right.
You know, I'm sure that you and Mr. Ware look at other factors too when you're looking to purchase land for development of cattle or for timber. But you know, when we're dealing with the prospect and maybe looking at your land, whether it be in Liberty County, Gadsden County, or Okaloosa County, they want to know about the land itself, but also about everything around it.
That is correct.
You know, so we need to market those things. It's your job to help us market your land, but it's our job to market all the other assets that this area has available to it. Let's talk about the foundation itself. I mean, we talk about the St. Regis Paper Company and the Holland Ware Charitable Foundation. Tell us about that, how that came about.
Well, Mr. Ware is a very generous man. He has, through the years, he has provided millions of dollars for cancer research. He has provided millions of dollars for Auburn University and others. And he came up with the idea of wanting to see this land to remain in timberland. Development was so rampant a few years ago, houses being built everywhere, everything going in subdivisions, and he wanted to be able to continue donating to these various charities after his death. Yeah. And so he set up the Holland Ware Charitable Foundation. At one time, he was the 15th or 16th largest landowner in the United States. Wow. But he has given away land to various organizations. Bryan College in Tennessee jumps to mind. He has donated money to them for scholarships, but he's also donated land to them, and he's donated land to other various entities. But he put the majority of his holdings in the Holland Ware Charitable Foundation. And I was going over the list this morning, and I think there's some 45 organizations that have benefited from donations from the Holland Ware Charitable Foundation.
That's impressive.
And it goes from college scholarships to helping with abused animals. My middle daughter is very involved with this. She's also my secretary, my assistant. She tells me where to go and what to do. But
I have one of those too.
She's rescued, she personally working through Holland's network, she's rescued over 500 dogs.
Yeah, I read about the Humane Society support that he's had for a long time as well. And you know, that's something that you know, we love our pets, you know, and I see these pictures of ones that are abandoned and everything, you know, and there's sad cases, but it's nice that somebody thinks about that, because they become part of your family as well, you know.
They are.
So I wanted to mention also that that Mr. Ware's land encompasses more than just Florida. Now it's in Alabama and Georgia.
Right. Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. So
that's a lot of land and a lot of area to cover. So now you cover all 3 states?
Well, currently I am the area manager for his timber holdings in central Georgia. Mm-hmm. But I handle his real estate. I help him with his acquisitions. He handles the really big tracts, and I handle the smaller tracts.
Like the 11,000 acre Shoal River.
Well, fortunately, he let me handle that one, but we bought 149,000 acres from International Paper at one time. Wow. And he, of course, handled that, and I was just the assistant. I got to walk around and carry the broom and the dustpan.
when you're Mr. Ware, when you're out there looking to acquire land like that, do you basically walk or ride through the entire parcel to know every aspect of that property so you're comfortable with it?
When we were smaller, that was very true. But when you make a large purchase, we always do timber cruises, we do environmental assessments, and these are our eyes and ears into a project also, to look for those hidden things out there that could come back and bite us in the rear end. Yeah. Because we want to know everything about the property. We want to know the potential. I do Mr. Ware's marketing for him, anything that he decides to sell. And his business model has been to buy a large package of land, and we'll sell off anywhere from a third to a half of it and keep the rest. Yeah. And that's how we can afford to grow timber, is we lower our basis. I see. But you know, we work with real estate brokers, we work with paper companies, we work with TMOs. We have done a lot of work with the TMOs in the past and the pension funds. Yeah.
But you have to do that, I think. You know, if I'm not fortunate, or Nathan's not fortunate enough to bring you a big prospect for some of that timberland, then you've got to look to other options for what you're going to do in terms of marketing it. But I think that you talked about environmental study, and there's a piece of property that are down in Gulf County mm-hmm. that deals with Port of St. Joe.
Correct.
And they're looking to dredge that property, dredge the port, so that they can bring ships in and out there for trade. What interest do you have in that particular area and that particular piece of property over there?
Well, we have a granite quarry in Elbert County on some of our timber property. Remember, timber is the main focus, but we get into other things because the opportunity presents itself. Right. And we have a granite quarry in Elbert County, Georgia, and we have signed a letter of intent with Port St. Joe that if this dredging is done, we would like to ship granite down to Port St. Joe through CSX and the A&N Railroad, right. and load it on ships, ship it overseas, and by return rail, we have an excellent site for a sand pit in Gadsden and Liberty counties. In fact, it's right on the county line. And we are marketing or exploring the opportunities of shipping the sand back to Atlanta, where a lot of the building's going on.
Oh, okay. So dual purpose there, and then I think we had a conversation also about pellets, wood pellets.
Right. There are some pellet mills. There are people who are in the pellet mill business. They're interested in shipping out of Port St. Joe also. Because we have so much timber, we're interested in them locating here in Northwest Florida. Chip mills, pellet mills. At the Port of Savannah right now, they are shipping pellets, they're shipping whole logs, they're shipping chips. And I think this would help not only Northwest Florida, it would help Southwest Georgia, and South Alabama, and Southeast Mississippi. I think dredging this port's one of the best things they could do.
It's an expensive proposition to understand.
It's expensive, but it's going to bring jobs to the area, because several years ago I was in a similar position with a different company, and we were agricultural based, crops. And the Southwest Georgia farmers, by being able to ship out of the Gulf of Mexico at the various ports, the farmers over in Alabama were getting a higher price for their grain than we were, because of the transportation cost of getting our grain to Savannah. And if these ports were available, I think it's grain would also be shipped out of Port St. Joe.
Really? Have you been working with the St. Joe company as well?
Yes, in fact, we've had meetings with them and have meetings set up for next week.
Great. Yeah, I just saw Park Brady yesterday in Tallahassee, and they're excited about the potential what that port can do. But again, like you and Mr. Ware, he talks about the job creation that could happen in that area there, Liberty County, Gulf County, and some of the other surrounding counties.
Well, it's going to create jobs in those counties, and it's going to attract industry, because we're all doing business overseas. Whether we like it or not, we are part of the world. We're not isolationist anymore.
No, it's interesting. In terms of, I've been following and I'm sure you have as well, the Panama Canal and its expansion that's supposed to be completed sometime in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And our ports, the Port of Panama City, Port Pensacola, and of course the Port of St. Joe will have the closest proximity to the Panama Canal of any ports in the United States.
And I think the politicians here in Florida need to take note of that fact. I read an article last week. The Savannah port, Savannah, Georgia, is the 4th busiest port in the United States.
Wow.
But it has the same problem Port St. Joe does. It's too shallow, and they need to dredge. And so they're having the same conversations. And I encourage the state of Florida is get in the first punch, get this job done, and get this port up and running, because there's a lot of business to be done overseas. A lot of these pellets are going to Europe, and there's a lot of wood being grown in Northwest Florida, South Alabama, and Southwest Georgia, and all that money would be funneled through the state of Florida.
Yeah, I know that the governor is very supportive of the 18 ports in Florida, and it's a high priority for him, because he understands the value of international trade and what Florida has to offer, being as strategically located as it is. We have time for maybe one more question. I want to just go back to talk about the Shoal River Ranch, 11,000 acres. Now, we've talked about this. We've been working to bring in suppliers to some of these original equipment manufacturers, these OEMs that deal with Airbus, Mobile, and they deal with Boeing, they deal with a lot of these major airplane manufacturers. And we've submitted a lot of the sites that are available in Northwest Florida to Airbus and their suppliers. This is we haven't submitted this property yet, but we're about to. And I think there's great opportunities there to bring in potentially making it a mega site and bring some major suppliers from perhaps Europe or other parts of the U.S. to Crestview area and the Shoal River Ranch there.
Well, any way we can cooperate with you, we want to, because we want to see this area grow. We want to see jobs brought in here.
Yeah. Well, you know, Ralph, that's our bottom line. And our organizations, the EDOs, Florida's Great Northwest, that's all we want to do is to work with organizations and companies like yours, market the properties, bring some prospects in there that will create the investment and the jobs, bottom line. And so we do appreciate that what you and Mr. Ware have done.
Well, we appreciate working with your organization. You have been most helpful since we've been here. And I'm still trying to get my feet on the ground and get my hands wrapped around the property we have there, but we appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, we'll continue that relationship and look forward to it. We've got just time for one last question or answer. Anything you want to close with? Talk about the properties again? No,
well, the main thing is we're glad to be here. We want to be a neighbor, and we want to bring something here that's going to be good for the economies and for the communities.
Thank you. Well, this is Ralph Long from St. Regis Paper Company and the Holland Ware Charitable Foundation, and been a pleasure. Short time I've known Ralph, being with him, I'm looking for a good long relationship, and I think you'll appreciate him being here as well because he's going to help us create jobs. So thank you for viewing us today, and Ralph, thank you again.
Thank you.